the
morning,
Daily
all.
Whatever. It is Fucked Up Friday. I am Lawrence Winterman. Dana, introduce yourself.
I'm Dana Dubois. And Lawrence, every Friday is Fucked Up Friday around here. Hang on, I'm adjusting my volume.
In
This
the
is,
timeline we're living in, every Friday is Fucked Up Friday. That is
it
absolutely
is.
true.
And this has been such a fucked up week that, like, I have been very eager for today to talk
Whatever
about.
will we talk about?
I don't know.
There isn't enough fucked up news to. Oh, no, I'm lying.
Yeah,
Every day, a fresh horror.
right. But like,
Dana, you look pretty today, says Jeannie.
oh,
Extra pretty.
thank you. Thank you. I brushed my hair. What can I say?
Right. What am I,
Um,
chopped liver? I got a new haircut. And nobody's saying I look pretty? Come on. Come
you
on,
look,
people.
you look very handsome, Lawrence. You always
You
look
look
very
very
handsome.
pretty, Dana.
Thank you. All right, I see our live is here and I'm joining the chat. Oh, thank you. Kat says we both look beautiful. Thank
Aw.
you, Kat.
I mean, after
Um,
we fish for compliments, God.
oh, Lawrence, don't
Oh,
ever
Dana.
change. I'm,
Whatever are we going to do today? We have an amazing guest joining us
we
today who
do. And
just
there she
joined the
is.
chat.
Julie Roginsky is joining us today for Fucked Up Friday. I if we have to talk about the news in this fucked up timeline that we're on, Lawrence, can't think of a better person to talk about it with. So
Absolutely.
at least we have that. I'm literally like, I don't usually let the news impact me at like a hair level. You know, like in my head, I get pretty caught up in what's happening, but like I'm carrying it in my gut this week.
Yeah.
I am jittery and I feel off and just like low grade, queasy, what's going on? And I'm like, oh, I know what's going on. All the things in the world.
Right, right. Oh, what could possibly be going on? Oh, my existential dread at the world that we're living in at this current moment. How
Yes,
lovely.
it is. It's not great. But on that happy note, should we bring Julie on?
I'm inviting Julie because only she can help us make sense of what is happening in the world at this moment.
That is right. While you're doing that, she probably needs no introduction, but I will say Julie is a Democratic strategist, the co-founder of the nonprofit Lift Our Voices. Hi, Julie.
Hi,
Hi,
Julie.
guys. How are you?
Good.
So
How are
good.
you?
Oh, feeling probably as queasy as the rest of you guys. I'm, just sitting here in my house, figuring out what is happening to our country and looking at
No big
kind
deal,
of
really.
casually looking at real estate in Europe. Just,
Where are you
Not a bad
looking to
idea.
go? Because same.
literally, I was on a French real estate site yesterday first I was looking at American schools in Paris to transfer my son, and then I was looking at real estate near the American school. And then my husband comes home from work and I go, "Do you ever consider just moving to France?" And he just looked at me like I was out of my mind. He's like, "No." I just walked to the other room and that was it. My whole day of like real estate
Right.
investing
I would
was
have been like,
over.
honey, yes, let's pull the trigger. Did you
I
find anything
know. I
good?
was expecting a different answer, but he looked at me like he was like, it was like literally a 5-year-old asking for a puppy. Like, "Do you want to move to France?" He's like, "No." Shut it
Try a
all
different
down
country.
immediately.
Oh my God.
Uh,
How, right. How about Amsterdam? Looks really nice.
It's a little cold. Have you been there?
Yes.
yeah.
So Amsterdam's great, but a little, although, the Dutch, they're getting kind of they have a
Yes.
conservative government also. So I don't know if you're really going to go based on politics, you should go to Scandinavia. Like you should go to Denmark. Denmark's a good place right now.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, if you do end up in France, we have two amazing people, two expats that we follow here on Substack that we'll introduce you to. They have both relocated to France and they know all the tips
Wow.
and tricks. So
Good for
Yeah.
them. That's great.
Rich Kagan and Sasha
Cohen.
Cohen. Yeah. And Sasha Cohen.
Wonderful.
Yeah, they podcast together now sometimes. We've had them both on the show separately, but yeah, they have successfully expatriated to lovely
Smart.
villages in France. I know.
I would, if it were not for my big no that I got, I would be there with them, yesterday because I'm like, it's not going in a good direction here. And I
Yeah.
feel very much, this is going to sound very awful, but I feel very much like we're in, and I'm not analogizing anybody to the Nazis, but Berlin 1933, people said, oh, it can't be that bad. It's not going to get that bad. And then by 34, well, it's getting bad, but it's not going to be that bad. And then you know what happened later. So I just don't see how this little experiment that the voters decided to saddle us with last November is going to end well for anybody, including them.
Yeah. Yeah. It makes me crazy. So Dana and I are both of Jewish heritage, and
Yep, me too.
Oh, that's right here.
okay,
Yeah.
Yep.
nice. And I have to keep reminding myself there were actually Jews in Germany who voted for Hitler because they were like, oh, he's all talk. He's not that bad. And
Yeah.
yeah, he was pretty bad.
Yeah. And I'll tell you, I have said this before on my show, but I remember being in Berlin in 1993, which is not that long after the war.
Okay.
I mean, it's less than 40 years after the war, right? So there were still obviously a lot of people who were in their 60s, 70s, and older walking around. And the only thing I could think, and I was a 20-year-old, backpacking through Europe, the only thing I could think when I looked at them was, what were you guys doing
Right.
back in the 30s and 40s? And I feel like 40 years from now, people are going to be coming here and looking at us and saying, what were you guys doing during this whole thing? And again, I don't want to hear it from anybody. I'm not analogizing. I'm not saying that Trump is Hitler. I'm just saying that I can't recall from all the history books that I've read, except for the lead up to the Civil War, a darker time in our nation's history. It's just getting bad. And it's terrifying. So I agree with you. That pit that you have in your stomach, Dana, like I get it. I have it too. We all have it, I think.
The fact that you're here saying this with your level of expertise is just making the pit expand. That
Happy Friday.
Happy Fucked Up Friday.
Yeah.
Yes. I love what you just said. And after the show, I'm going to send you. I wrote a story about this.
Oh, good.
Almost the same topic about taking my kids to Germany last summer. It was their first European trip. We went to see Taylor Swift in Munich. It was awesome.
Oh, that's so nice.
And I also went to Germany with my other best friend, who Lawrence and I grew up with, Denise. The three of us were like the triumvirate in high school. Lawrence and I have known each other since we were in fourth grade. So we go way back. Way back.
Where did you guys grow up?
South Florida.
Coral Springs, Florida.
Florida. Okay. But are you, neither of you is in Florida anymore, or is one of you in Florida still?
No. We moved. We went to University of Florida and then we left the state for good. We both ended up in Seattle. I'm still here, and Lawrence is in Fort Wayne, Indiana, with his family.
Oh my God, Lawrence, you're like in the belly of the beast in Indiana.
I am. Yeah, I've spoken several times about the absolute culture shock of moving from Seattle to Fort Wayne, Indiana, and being, in a place where there's like Republican supermajorities in the legislature, right? Like, there's not even the whisper of a chance of getting any Democratic progressive policies through the state house here.
Oh, yeah. Meanwhile, you're in the promised land out in Seattle. I was just there a couple of weeks ago, and it's just so
were you?
Nice and chill. Yeah, I was in a conference in a hotel room, and I did not go outside for 3 days. But nevertheless, I have been to Seattle before.
Oh my gosh.
And it is like the promised land. It's like normal San Francisco. It's like San Francisco without the bullshit.
Right. Well, we've lived there long enough that we saw it go from like this really kind of charming small city into the sort of tech metropolis that it is.
Yeah.
Seattle is doing everything that San Francisco did, just like 20 years later, basically.
Well, time to buy real estate.
Right. Well, actually, 20 years ago,
20 years ago.
Real estate.
Yeah. Look, my brain coming back. That rarely happens these days. But the story that I wrote about taking my kids there, I flashed back to going there in the 90s with my friend Denise. And the whole thing was this reckoning with like, wow, we grew up in the shadow of the Holocaust, generationally removed. Like my mom and dad, like, were born in the 40s, right? So they were raised right in the shadow of it. To me, it was one generation removed, but still quite immediate from going to Hebrew school and all that. And I had that same feeling in the 90s, especially of like the older people, like, you were alive for this. Like, what did you do? You helped chop off the limbs of my family tree that was still here, and
Yeah, and
kind of, yeah.
I don't know if you had this feeling that I had when I was walking. I remember very clearly walking down the Unter der Linden, which is like their big drag that goes from West Berlin into East Berlin. And
Mhm.
just thinking, if this were 40 years ago, I could not be walking here. Any one of you would come get me and ship me off to a camp. And that was a really weird feeling. And I haven't had that feeling since. Like, I went to Germany a couple of years ago, not to a Taylor Swift concert, but also to Munich. I didn't have that feeling that time around and the subsequent times before that I went to Germany. But I think in the 90s, when it was still sort of fresh, or maybe because it was
Yeah.
my first time, I really had that very horrible feeling. And I only say that to say, if you are Latino and you're here 40 years from now, and you're looking at all of us and you're saying, which one of you would have stopped me or would have turned me in or would have
been in ICE, right?
would have called ICE or would have done this. And, what an awful thing to have people think about you.
Yeah.
And it's probably unfair to a lot of those Germans who just happen to have lived where they lived or were born where they were born. But in the same way that I think it would be unfair to us. I mean, we're all fighting this with every ounce of breath that we have. But
Yeah.
that's the country we've become. And that's really just so awful and terrifying and just depressing to me. It's like, what the
Julie,
hell happened?
I was in Berlin in '97, and I,
Yeah.
I did the same thing, walking
Yeah.
along Unter den Linden and thinking, I'm a gay Jew. Like I'm a box of Lucky Charms,
Oh my
right? Like
God.
pink triangles,
You're
yellow stars, green clovers, purple moons.
you're that unicorn they were looking for.
Right, right. Like they would have gotten so many toasters if they had turned me in. Like,
Oh
oh,
yeah.
you get a toaster, you get a new fridge,
It's
an
like the
easy bake
Ginsu knife,
oven.
but wait, there's more.
But wait, congratulations, secret jackpot.
Yeah.
Triple outcast of the day.
Yeah.
But I have that feeling here in Indiana, right? Like not as intensely, but I I'm wearing this shirt. I think about wearing this shirt if I go outside because there are people who are such diehard Republicans here in Indiana that they've bought the Trump anti-Ukraine messaging hook, line, and sinker. It's insane.
I mean, it's insane when you think about where the Republican Party was again 40 years ago. I mean,
Right.
this is the party that stood up. Forget 40 years ago. Mitt Romney said something that he was absolutely right about. And at the time, I worked at Fox as their token Democrat at the time. I said it on air as a Democrat. And I said, he's right and Obama's wrong when it comes to Ukraine. Not Ukraine, excuse me, Russia, where he said Vladimir Putin is the single most, biggest geopolitical threat, or Russia is the biggest geopolitical threat in the world right now. And remember, Obama kind of laughed and said, oh, the 80s called, they won their foreign policy back. Mitt Romney was right.
Yeah.
And
My
at the
God.
time, he was
I
right.
remember that.
And that was 2012?
Yeah, 2012, the
Not
campaign
that
against
long
Romney.
ago. I
Yeah.
mean, that was what, 15 years ago, a little less?
Yeah.
What happened? I mean, we know what happened, but I mean, it's crazy that you can't walk around with a Ukraine shirt on and not expect to get,
Yeah.
you know.
Or thinking about when we were growing up, right? Reagan and his absolute kind of rabid anti-communist, anti-Soviet Union,
Yes.
anti-Russia stance. Could we wrap him in some copper wiring because he's spinning in his grave so fast right now he could power a city,
Oh, if Reagan showed up right now, he'd be a rhino and he'd be, whatever little Ronnie
right
name
He'd be Joe
that Trump
Walsh,
came up
right?
with. And
He'd leave the Republican Party and somehow
yeah,
figure out how to be a Democrat.
nah, he probably would be Secretary of State like Marco Rubio. He just,
Right.
Marco Rubio, great example of somebody who was a huge proponent of Ukraine, aid to Ukraine as recently as last year, and now has completely sold out. And he has a horrible poker face, so you could see him like shrinking into the couch like this whenever Zelensky shows up. But nevertheless, like he works for a man who literally rolled out the red carpet for Vladimir Putin and had Marines get on their hands and knees and roll out a red carpet for a genocidal autocrat. Like what? You watch, speaking of the name of your show, but like you watch that stuff and you're like, what the fuck is going on?
Right.
Like,
Right.
am I like in some simulation? My friend
We feel
Michelle,
that way.
Yeah. We
yeah,
talk about that a lot.
yeah,
Like we're in the wrong timeline.
my friend Michelle, had this great, and who I do our show with, but called Over It on here in Substack. Actually, it's not on Substack; it's in YouTube. But she had this great observation. She goes, "Did we just all die in 2015, and this is our hell? Like this is what hell looks like?"
Right.
And I
have a
said,
theory
"I don't
like
think."
that too. It was
Yeah, and
when
I was
David
like,
Bowie died. It's because David Bowie died. He was the one who kept us on the right path. How is it possible that we're in the reality where Bowie is gone and Trump lives on and leads again? Everything got
well,
fucked up right then.
my response to her was, "I don't think I lived a life prior to 2012 that merited me going to hell like this. Like I did not do like I didn't kill anybody.
Right?
I didn't steal money. I didn't do
Right.
God. It was collective. We had no choice. We got
I
dragged
know. I'm
down for
like,
other
I haven't
sins.
broken too many commandments. I mean, a few of them, but not all of them.
Right.
Right? Um, here's something that uh, baffles me a bit. And at Gen XE, we kind of, Lawrence and I, we're Gen X. Our
Yeah,
publication
of
is
course.
called Gen XE. Yes, yes. And we think Gen X is a fulcrum generation and one that's here to heal generational trauma, right? And when it comes to Judaism and the Holocaust and healing, and one thing that is striking me so hard is when I talk to my mom, especially, is they don't see the parallels. Like older Jews now, my mom during looks at me and is like, "Well, you're just radicalized because you live in Seattle. You're so liberal." And I'm like, "I'm
Is
not
she in
though, Mom."
Florida still?
Yeah, and she votes
Oh,
for
she's been brainwashed because she's got to get out of there.
no, yeah, she never will.
Yeah.
Believe me, if
Yeah.
grandkids didn't get her out of that state, nothing will.
Yeah.
But how she was like, "Oh yeah, but these and she is Democrat. She voted for
Yeah.
Kamala. She didn't like her, but she voted for her. But she was like, "Well, but immigrants and being here illegally, like that, Biden made a lot of mistakes there." And I was like, "Okay, but should we turn people away who are coming here under dire circumstances?" Well, they have to come legally. I'm like, "Well, what about the people who came over on the boats?" She was like, "Well, that was anti-Semitism and they turned us away." And I'm like, "You're almost there, Mom.
Well,
You're almost there."
Right. You're
She
so close.
can't, she can't
so
see the parallel.
I'm going to tell you guys a personal story. So I don't know if you know this, probably you don't, but I'm actually a refugee. So I was
Yeah,
born in
I
the
did.
former Soviet. Yeah, so I was born in the former Soviet Union,
Yeah.
and we got out of there because we couldn't live. For the same reason, by the way, that all of these people are fleeing. Actually, they're probably in worse shape than we are. They're actually fleeing real death and destruction. We were just leaving because we were Jews.
Mhm.
And we couldn't come straight here. And we had to go first to Austria and then to Italy and then wait for, we applied for asylum. And then finally we came here. But we came here, we crossed the border in New York. Apparently never left. So I'm still here.
I mean, it's a good place.
And said, you know what? My parents were like, maybe New Jersey. I was like, no, I'm staying in New York. So, but a lot of these, tell your mom, a lot of these are Russian refugees who are fleeing Putin because they literally did nothing more than wear, they didn't even wear the shirt that you're wearing, Lawrence.
They held up
They're
blank pieces of
they
paper.
had held up blank pieces of paper and maybe said to somebody who turned them in, yeah, I don't support this war. And even calling it a war is against the law now because it's called a special military operation. You can't call it a war.
Of
And,
course.
there's this devastating story in the New York Times a couple of weeks ago about a Russian couple who did exactly this, showed up at the border in Mexico to apply for asylum 100% under the law. So when your mom says that they came here illegally, no, they're allowed to apply for asylum at the border. That is the law. If you don't like the law, change it, but it is the law.
Yeah.
And immediately placed into ICE. Well, first they were shipped to JFK to go back to Moscow. At JFK, they raised a huge ruckus. So they just said, we can't go back. If we go back, we will be separated from our 8-year-old son. And we'll be sent to the gulag, and he will be sent into an orphanage. And Russian orphanages are notoriously awful. But in addition to that, of course, they don't want to be separated from their son. They're sitting in ICE detention at a place here across the river in Newark, New Jersey, the biggest ICE detention facility called Delaney Hall. I have been there. I've never been inside, but I've been outside it. It was such it used to be I think a state prison, or no, it used to be a county jail. It was in such bad shape that the county said, we cannot house inmates here because it's so awful. And now it's the biggest ICE detention facility. It's got a $1 billion with a V dollar contract with ICE. These two parents are in ICE detention. They don't speak a word of English. Their son is now in foster care. He obviously does not speak a word of English. He first was like, "When am I gonna see you? When am I gonna see you?" And then the mom said he finally stopped asking. He said, "I'm never gonna see you again, am I?" That is what we're doing
Mm. I think
to
you just won Fucked Up Friday, Julie.
Oh, thank you. I mean, that wasn't even my fucked up Friday.
No, we know.
Yes. But that's what we're doing to people. I mean, to human beings who are coming here because they believed in the proposition that is written in the Statue of Liberty. And I don't want to get hokey, but it is like, give me your tire, your for your retributions, right? And for the entirety of the history of this country, unless you're Native American, everybody has come here for one reason or another like that.
Right.
And for this country to send people back to either death or imprisonment for nothing more than daring to ask for asylum from a country that has represented itself with a statute in New York Harbor of being a place that gives people asylum. I don't even know where to begin. I mean, legitimately, I actually was so incredibly disturbed by the story that I wanted to see if I could take this little boy in, this 8-year-old boy in, because I speak Russian, and obviously I wanted him to be among people who understood, and I went through I was 7 when I came here. I understand what he's going through, except, of course, I never was separated from my parents. And
Gosh.
and, he's in foster care, so there's no I have to go through a whole foster it wouldn't work out, because it's not as easy, obviously, as taking knocking at a door and saying, "Hey, I'm gonna take this kid now."
Right.
But what is so awful about this is, the most traumatic I'm 52, the most traumatic thing I have gone through or hopefully will ever go through is that whole experience. It is awful, it's unsettling, you feel unmoored, you feel like you're without a safety net, you see your parents, you understand at the very young age that your parents also are terrified, have no idea what's going on. But the one thing that we were told continuously when I was, when we were shuttling all through Europe trying to get here is I had a sense that we would be safe when we got here.
Right.
And that my parents were the only people I knew. I mean, they were everything to me. And I cannot imagine getting here and having my parents taken away from me, placed in prison, and you're placed with strangers in a foster home. Who the hell knows what kind of foster care he's getting? I mean, it's foster care, right? How many other kids are there? He doesn't speak a word of the language. Everything is just awful. Just awful.
That
Yeah.
I no longer look
honestly.
at the people. I no longer look at the people in Germany and think, "What did you do?" I'm like, I completely get the powerlessness. Like, what could they have done? What can they do? Right?
Yeah.
Like, especially like in a country this huge, and a country without social safety nets. I know there's a lot of calls around general strikes. That's coming next, and I'm like, we depend on work to have health insurance, and like there is no social safety net here. So if you don't work, like you and your family will have nothing. You'll be homeless, you'll starve, you won't have health insurance. And we're
I feel like I hold on to hope. Like somehow I'm holding on to hope because, well, two things we have that they didn't have. One, we have the example of Germany and the rise of Nazism and Hitler, right? And we can, although obviously not all of us, we can learn from history. We have learned from history. There's 33% of the population, 35%, 40%, whatever it is, Trump's diehard base. They didn't, but most of us did. And we have mass communications and the ability to connect with people like this, even though we're all in different cities and different states. We can find like-minded people. Germany didn't have that, obviously, in the 30s. And so that's what gives me hope is that maybe we can collectively, hold each other's hands long distance and stand together and push back. Because if we can't do that, I can't imagine what we're going to experience in this country. Like I will be wearing pink triangles and yellow stars at some point in the near future if we don't push back, right?
I think it's so important that you said that, Lawrence, because Substack, I feel, is this whole ecosystem that they haven't quite tapped into yet. It's coming.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's definitely coming. Yeah.
It's coming. Like the Russian trolls are coming and the Chinese trolls are coming, and they're going to try to infiltrate here. But in the meantime, I think it's so important to keep building up communities here on YouTube, which of course is, they have infiltrated. But all of these places are really important ecosystems to grow. Listen, I'll say this about Charlie Kirk. He figured it out really early, and they were a decade ahead of us.
Right.
Actually, much more. They were decades, plural, ahead of us. But in terms of how to communicate, people like Charlie Kirk and Ben Shapiro and so many others, and Trump for himself, were light years ahead of us.
Yeah.
And we still have leaders in Washington, I think, who think it's the 90s and don't know how to communicate and parse every word and they don't know how to be authentic because they haven't been authentic since the age of 10 when they decided they were going to become a senator, right?
Right.
So,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But there is a whole army of people who are just normal people like us who know what to do and how to speak and what to say because we just speak from the heart. We just are who we are, right? For good or ill.
Yeah.
And that's what we have to do. I mean, that's how you get people to understand what's happening. Look, he's right that he could shoot somebody on Fifth Avenue and
still get the vote.
Look, he will not release the Epstein file. I mean, Epstein is his Fifth Avenue, right? Like, there you go.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean that people are not going to the supermarket and seeing what they're paying for groceries. They're not trying to get a mortgage and seeing what's happened. They can't. I mean, there's fewer mortgages now than in 2008 during the financial crisis. It's crazy. So
really? I didn't know that.
Oh yeah, it's a crazy statistic. I mean, we're in a really bad place. We're in stagflation. I mean, whether people want to realize it or not, we are in a bad place.
And looking at Japan, the most recent example of stagflation writ large in the country does not give us much hope because it's literally taken them decades.
And so, all of that I think is to say that these people may not give up on him, but they also may just not vote.
Right.
They may just be discouraged.
Right. Which my argument there would be at least that would help, right? The if you subtract some votes from the overall total, maybe that would help us actually win the next elections, assuming that they are free and fair and accurately counted, which,
big assumptions.
Right. My hope wars with my tinfoil hat doubt around that sometimes.
I don't think it's tinfoil hat, Lawrence, because I think with everything, every accusation is an admission with this crew.
Right.
And if they're accusing you of something, you better bet that they're doing it themselves.
Yep.
So the beauty of Trump is you're never surprised. If you actually pay attention to what he says, you can kind of predict what's going to happen. And when he said yesterday or 2 days ago after Kirk's death, which is tragic and should never have happened, but when he said, we're going to shut down all of these people who are contributing to political violence and go after the people who fund them. I mean, that's us.
Right.
Because what he's going to say is any criticism of Donald Trump or people like Donald Trump leads to political violence.
Exactly.
And he's going to go after the First Amendment and after us under the guise of inciting political violence. And he's going to make the argument to the Supreme Court that it's akin to yelling fire in a crowded theater, which is exactly what the court is going to agree with because the court is
bought and paid for.
Bought and paid for. And so that's where we're headed. I mean, when we started the show talking about this, and I was like, I don't know how it's going to get better. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Hey. Is there we really have to get into Fucked Up Friday, but I do want to ask, we were half joking at the start of the show about getting out of the country. Is there a final straw for you? Is there a thing that you're like, if X happens, next ticket out of here?
I mean, if I didn't have a family here, my elderly parents, and if I were just completely on my own and I could just pick up and go anywhere, I'd be gone already. But But I think, if you're thinking from the Jewish perspective of 1933, and I keep saying to my mother, I was like, the smart ones got out in 33. The ones who said it can't be that bad ended up dead. I think it's when they start coming after us for speech. I mean, when I get a knock on the door saying you're inciting violence because you're critical of the president, even though I've never in my life ever incited violence against anybody, that's when I'm going to know it's time to go. Because if I can't, I didn't go through everything I went through as a child to live in a country where I can't speak my mind. And I think a lot of that is very personal to me, but it's not personal just to me. I think all of us with our histories generations of our families did not go through what we went through. And that applies to people who came here, whose grandparents or great grandparents came here from Italy or Ireland or
Anywhere.
Slovenia or Poland or Africa. Certainly people, God, my God, people whose ancestors came here from Africa. This really applies to you. But or deprivation in South and Central America or Asia, like all of us are here because our ancestors could not stay where they were. It was so bad where they were that they decided to hop a boat or a plane and come here.
Sure.
Yeah.
And
my Jewish ancestors came here in the 1880s from Russia because there were pogroms, right? And they knew they couldn't stay. So they moved to Oklahoma and opened a shop.
Really?
Yeah.
In the 1880s, yes.
How did I not know that about you, Lawrence? All these years.
Yeah. Oh, there's fun stories we could tell. But before we get into like pitching our fucked up Friday stories, Julie, I want to ask you the hard question, right? Of it's been a couple days now since Charlie Kirk was assassinated. Everyone's had their hot take moment. Where are you at now, a couple days in? Like, what is the takeaway that you're kind of forming with a little bit of perspective on it?
I'm going to preface what I'm going to say by saying that Charlie Kirk was a racist. Charlie Kirk was a misogynist. He was a homophobe. And I'm probably missing one or two things.
Transphobe.
Homophobe, transphobe, same thing, right? Not same thing, but part of the same kind of, yeah. So, he wanted women to stay home and have babies. He didn't think that if you were a black pilot, he'd be worried because you only got the job because of DEI.
Right. Most importantly, he wanted Taylor Swift to stay home and get married and not be a songwriter. I mean, come on.
Yeah. I mean, Lawrence, he wanted you to be stoned to death because somewhere in Leviticus it says that you should be.
I mean, I've tried to get stoned to death before, but I think it's something very different.
Not in a good way.
Right.
I was going to say, he didn't want you to get stoned in a good way. He wanted you to get physically stoned.
Oh, yeah.
So, although maybe in the 21st century, you could just get literally stoned to death.
And maybe, yeah, we're learning some things.
Yeah. Now that pot's legal almost everywhere, not Indiana, I bet. But
in Seattle,
Seattle, you probably could get stoned to death. Yeah. But he still was a father, and he was the father of two little boys who will not remember him. They won't remember how he held them. They won't remember how he smelled. They won't remember how he loved them. And he had every right to say what he said. I don't agree with it. I disagree with everything. But he had the right to say it in the same way that we have the right to disagree with him vocally and vociferously.
Yeah.
And from my perspective, I don't know why he was killed. They apparently have a suspect in custody. I don't know yet what the background of the suspect was. I mean, maybe he hated everything Charlie Kirk stood for, or maybe he loved everything Donald Trump stood for. I truly don't know the answer, right? Like the narrative was established by the right even before his body was cold about how this was all our fault. But for all I know, this guy was a rabid Republican. Who knows?
Right.
But the bottom line is, whatever the reason, Charlie Kirk should be alive today to talk about whatever he wants to talk about.
Right.
He should. Or to stay home with his kids the way he wanted Taylor Swift and me and everybody else to stay home with ours.
Yeah. Right.
So it's I feel like this is an inflection point to some extent, because I went on Twitter shortly after his death, which I typically don't do these hot takes.
Right.
And I all I said was, look, like, turn down the temperature here, Republicans. Like, you don't know what's happened yet. So, like, for a change, please try to unite the country. And I have never Oh, I shouldn't say never. I have not gotten that kind of vitriol back for a long time, and a lot of it was I study this kind of professionally, so a lot of this was Russian bots
Yeah.
who are here, and Chinese bots too. And Spencer Cox, the governor of Utah, pointed that out yesterday at his press conference. But I pointed it out 2 days ago. I said, look, it's very apparent to me that a lot of the replies here are bots. So I'm logging off. I'm not dealing with you. But we have foreign adversaries who exist to gin up the division because they don't care who wins. They do care that Donald Trump's president. But I mean, right now, they want a civil war. I mean, they want the United
They want
States.
us weak and fractured.
They want us fractured so that they can go invade Taiwan. They can go invade more of Ukraine or Poland or wherever they want to go.
Yeah.
And we're our eyes off the prize. We can't focus on NATO. We can't focus on any Asian alliances we have because we're in the midst of a civil war. And they're close to succeeding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Charlie Kirk's death was a very helpful event for people who want that. So it's not really a hot take other than to say, from a human perspective, of course, it's a tragedy and it's awful. Anybody who thought they were going to shut Charlie Kirk up is crazy because there are a billion Charlie Kirks running around.
Sure.
He was very talented, but I mean, there's what he did so effectively and smartly, and I wish Democrats would emulate this, is Turning Point USA will go on without him, and he has created an ecosystem where we'll go on without him successfully. So I don't know what the purpose of all this was, if they thought they were shutting him down.
Yeah.
Or his movement
they've
down.
Murdered him, essentially.
Yeah. I mean, it's basically a murder. And what more can you say? I mean, nobody deserves to get murdered. Like, nobody deserves to get murdered in cold blood like that. So, that's my take. I don't know what else to say about it.
No, thank you. I think I'm feeling in a similar way. And, here's the challenge I think we experience a lot is the take on this side of the political spectrum is often nuanced and complex like that. And it makes me think of The West Wing and President Bartlett and that big speech about how there are very few days that are black and white, where there's a clear good guy and a clear bad guy. It's often shades of gray and nuance. And what you just said is, I think, the right frame, but it's a complicated frame and it doesn't fit on a bumper sticker.
And that's the world we live in now, right? Where everything has to fit in a bumper sticker. Everything has to be short,
or a tweet,
pithy.
Right?
And that's awful because, as you said, most things are nuanced. You can hold two things together at the same time. One is that Charlie Kirk espoused a lot of ideas that a lot of us find very repugnant, but simultaneously, and more importantly, Charlie Kirk should be alive today.
Yeah.
It should be, from my perspective, should be saying all the things that I disagree with as often as he wants to say them.
Yes.
Yes, 100%. I wish Charlie Kirk had the same protections from gun violence that I wish every American had. That hasn't changed. Right?
Yeah.
The fact that he spent his life fighting that makes his murder ironic, but it doesn't change the fact that I wish we had sensible gun laws that could have saved him, but we don't.
Yeah, so. And I'm also going to say this. Look, there was a school shooting almost simultaneously,
right?
I believe in Colorado, right next door, right? When Charlie Kirk was murdered. Nobody's talking about that. There are school shootings virtually on a daily basis.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody's talking about that. And, I was watching CNN yesterday and I actually was so disgusted, and I'm on CNN all the time. So I'm even doubly disgusted that I'm on a station that would do this. But they were doing a live, like, now here comes the casket being loaded into Air Force Two. Now here comes the casket being unloaded. Now we're going to follow the casket as it travels to wherever it was going. And I'm thinking, was this like the Kennedy assassination? Like, what is going on here? It's not to diminish his death, but do we do this for little kids that die? Did we do this in Parkland?
Or Sandy Hook?
Like, did we follow these caskets live? I mean, maybe we did, but we certainly don't do it every time there's a school shooting.
Right.
And we just kind of shrug and we move on. The vice president certainly doesn't accompany caskets of little children doesn't lend his plane to have those caskets flown to wherever.
They don't get the Presidential Medal of Honor.
And the Presidential Medal of Honor, which is just absurd. And to me, it's so awful about what it says about where we are in this country. And by the way, it's not because Charlie Kirk's a conservative. If Joe Biden had done this, if Rachel Maddow, God forbid, or somebody like of that stature got murdered, I would have the same reaction. Like, what are we talking about here?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And, I just, it was like wall to wall to wall coverage, which is exactly what our adversaries want.
Yes.
Exactly. I mean, now nobody's talking about the fact that Putin is testing, drones in a NATO country. Nobody's talking about what Xi Jinping might be doing in China.
Right.
Right.
And so on. And so everything just stopped. And for those of us who lived through 9/11, I remember so clearly. Do you guys remember the whole Chandra Levy thing?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. That was for people who don't know that she was an intern on the Hill in Washington. She had disappeared. There was some rumor and innuendo that she was having an affair with a congressman, I think actually from Washington State.
Yeah.
And like it was wall to wall to wall Chandra Levy coverage in the summer leading up to 9/11.
Yep.
That's all anybody talks about. And I was
I
working on the
vaguely
Hill.
remember that.
Yeah.
I vividly remember that.
Yeah.
And then it stopped like that when 9/11
And I was
happened.
working on the Hill at the time, and it was like nothing was getting done because everybody was all it was Chandra Levy all the time. And it was a horrible tragedy. I'm not suggesting that what happened to her is not terrible, like awful. It was salacious. I was into it and the salaciousness of it. But meanwhile, Osama bin Laden was plotting how to take down the World Trade Center and the Pentagon.
Right. Like that
And
mental split screen, right? Of us focused on minutia and our enemies plotting against us in ways that we can't even imagine.
Yeah. And when you have the head of the FBI and his deputy showing up for a manhunt that they have nothing to do with and taking time away from special agents on the ground because they have to cater to their boss and their boss's boss.
Right.
Rather than focusing on the mission at hand. Like there's other shit happening that Kash Patel should be focused on that frankly is a bigger threat than a lone gunman whose job was accomplished when he killed Charlie Kirk. And I don't know, maybe he was on some mission to kill more Charlie Kirks out there, but let the people do their job. Focus on the big thing. There are threats here that are really serious. And God forbid another 9/11 happens or something like that happens while they're focused on spending time in Utah searching for a guy. And they're still
there.
Can
I say something kind of crude here that I read yesterday and it
made
me absolutely laugh? Kash Patel showed up to that and stood around looking like he had just ripped a gnarly fart and was waiting for somebody to notice. And clearly not knowing what he was doing, right? Like just absolutely looking like the most out of place human who had ever existed. In addition to tweeting, about suspects being in hand that he, it was incorrect about right off the bat.
Well, we all understand why he's there, right? He's going to accompany him on the perp walk. I don't know what's happening now as we're on the show, but like this is all for social media.
Yeah,
this is all content.
It's programming. It's reality TV.
And we live in a world where everything is content. And if you want to blame anybody, blame Mark Burnett, because that's who came up with reality TV originally. Maybe I don't think he came up with it, but really perfected it and brought us Donald Trump while he was at it.
Right.
But, there is a lot to be said for the world we live in now. It's about ratings. It's about content. It's about clicks. It's about likes, because that's how you monetize it.
Yeah.
And everybody's thinking of the next job, right? Like, how do you monetize being the director of the FBI? What's going to happen when eventually I go? I need content.
Deal and the permanent Fox host spot or whatever comes next for him. Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, everybody's auditioning to be a Fox News contributor, and I've been that was my job for a very long time. And what I was always interested in was how these members of Congress would come on and really audition to have jobs like mine. And I was like, wait a second. It used to be that people would audition on TV to have your job.
Right.
But that's not lucrative. It's not lucrative to be a member of Congress. It's lucrative to be a contributor at a cable news station if you're, of a certain level. And That's what it is. It's about monetizing content continuously. The public service is just a way station to monetizing content, unless you've made so much money at Fox that then you can go into the administration as an ambassador or U.S. attorney in Washington or something else, so that when you get out, you can be monetizing that even more.
Yes. Somehow, Julie, I feel like we could talk to you forever. We want to be really respectful of your time, of course, and thank you for being here for this hour with us. We should probably actually do our little Fucked Up Friday contest.
Yes.
Now that we've only got 16 minutes left with you.
We'll have to pitch quickly.
Right. So the deal here is that we each have a story that we think is the most fucked up news of the week. And Julie, you got to sell it. You got to make your pitch to the chat that yours is the winning fucked up story. We like to say that this is the game that everybody loses, even the winner loses, because it's the most fucked up news story of the week. And we've got 3 of them.
Right.
So traditionally, we let the guest go first.
What? It's so rigged.
You have the right. I will say that there does tend to be a recency bias.
There does seem to be a recency bias. If you want to pass, we'll absolutely let you pass.
I will do what good NFL teams do, and I will let you have the ball first.
Excellent.
Okay.
All
Lawrence,
right.
Would you like to go first, or would you
I
like
will go first. I will go first. It is okay. It's hard to believe that this is actually the same week that we are talking about, but I will note that the Supreme Court decision that basically said, "Hey, ICE, you can absolutely racially profile. You can go ahead and target brown people or people who are speaking Spanish or who might have a Mexican flag on the bumper of their car. A-okay, you can do that. We're not going to do racial profiling for college admissions or anything else, but if it's about arresting people and deporting them from this country without due process, sure thing." So my submission is the Supreme Court ruling, the fast track shadow docket Supreme Court ruling that basically said racially profile people, A-okay for ICE deportation. That is my submission. Dana, do you want to go next and give Julie the honor of being last? Because
I will.
We really have learned there's recency bias here, Julie. You're very smart.
I will. And Lawrence, do you have a link for that to put in the chat? Or maybe
I do. I will. Yes. Let me grab it and put it in the chat.
Put that link in the chat for folks. And I will say that there's so many fucked up things this week. Like, what was it, Tuesday, that Russia, invaded Polish airspace, which I learned about through you, Julie, because you and Olga went live when I was literally in line at the taco truck on Taco Tuesday. And I was like, oh, that looks bad. So I'm going to say that with the caveat of there's so many fucked up things. It was very hard to pick this week. But my story, I will put the link in the chat, is this is a New York Times story. I'll read the headline. 10 million in contraceptives have been destroyed on orders from Trump officials. Birth control pills, IUDs, and hormonal implants purchased by USAID for women in low-income countries. They have been in limbo in a Belgian warehouse after the U.S. cut foreign aid. And they've been stuck there. It was $9.7 million worth of contraception. And the Gates Foundation and the Children's Investment Fund Foundation both offered to take it off our hands, the government's hands, free of charge. They said, we'll just take it. And the Trump regime said, no thanks, destroy that shit. And it cost $167,000 fucking dollars to destroy the contraceptives instead of letting another organization take them and distribute them, because the State Department said that contraception was not, quote, life-saving. That makes me want to do this for 1,000 years, and it makes my head explode.
It's not my job to sell your Fucked Up Friday, but I'm going to just add one thing to what you said because it's so good, which is that the Gates Foundation actually offered to pay for it. Not even free of charge. They offered to give money for it. And these clowns said, no, we'd rather spend $167,000 to get off our hands. Anyway, Dana, I would vote for yours because it's so good.
Thank you. Thank you.
But I'm going to try to sell mine anyway. So this is actually pretty good.
Okay, go.
So as you mentioned, Russia attacked Poland. It was not an accident. Attacked Poland, a NATO country, for the first time on purpose. Not like somebody flew over into the airspace. Literally flew drones over an airbase that is the airbase that sends a lot of aid to Ukraine. sent drones over the Warsaw Chopin Airport. So shutting down airspace in Poland, like clearly an aggressive gesture towards a NATO country. Poland, in return, for the 7th time in the history of NATO, a country has now asked for Article 5 under the NATO agreement, which is a conference. The United States did not even bother sending our ambassador to NATO for that, which is fucking fucked up. But that's not what's fucked up about it. As that was happening, at the very moment that was happening, Donald Trump decided to go for dinner for the first time in the history of his presidency this time around to a place called Joe's Stone Crab, which is a great steak place in D.C. You should go there if you know it.
We have
With him were J.D. Vance, Marco Rubio, the Secretary of State, and Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of Defense. And as this was happening, which, by the way, Poland had every right to, at that moment, trigger Article 5, which would have put our troops on the ground at war with Russia, if that's what Poland said under the NATO treaty. Those clowns were having dinner together. And those clowns did not leave to get a security briefing. And those clowns said nothing. And 3 of the 4 have said nothing still about what happened, except for Trump, who woke up the next morning after digesting his very good Joe's Stone Crab steak. And at 10:06 a.m., tweeted out like he's fucking Jerry Seinfeld, "What's the deal with Russia going into Polish airspace? Here we go. Here we go. Here what go? World War III?
Right.
What the fuck?"
Yeah.
That's fucked up, and that is my fucked up Friday.
Yeah. All right, Julie, you sold it. You got my vote. I probably shouldn't rig it like that,
too.
but
here's how it works, everybody. Go to the chat and put in your vote. I'm voting Julie. Just if you want to vote for Julie. Trump digesting his well-done fucking steak, probably
I'm going to put on my glasses so I can see the chat.
And vote Julie. If you want to vote for the U.S. destroying contraception intended for low-income countries rather than...
See, I think that's fucked up.
They're all fucked up.
They're all fucked up. Yeah,
this is the game that everyone loses. Too.
Okay, here we go. Code pink, but then we've got Julie, Lawrence.
All
right, I got one.
Yes.
Lawrence.
All right.
Julie, but the others are worthy. Dana. Yes, thank you, Kat. Dana. Oh, we got a few for me in a row. Julie, Dana, Lawrence, by far. Yes, all fucked up. Wasted. We're going by.
I think the 2 of you are ahead so far, or kind of neck and neck.
Yeah, this is a very scientific process, Julie.
Yeah, I can see. I would go for Dana, by the way, because what they did with that contraception.
And we would both vote for you. And PricewaterhouseCoopers is here in the back room tabulating, so they'll be out with a big envelope. And the winner is Julie.
Yes. Oh my gosh, it's so hard to pick. I know. I do want to echo what I think it was Yvonne who said this earlier in the chat, that she said, "This is why I'm on Substack, because I can't get the real news that I can trust outside of Substack." And I do feel like one of those like tinfoil hat, you got to do your own research kind of idiots sometimes when I say that, but it's actually true that I love being here as a content creator, but I also love being here to learn about the news. I mean, I found out about the Poland-Ukraine situation apparently before our president did.
Right.
Isn't that
by watching you?
Thank you. What's crazy about it is, if people on this chat, or maybe you guys know who Olga Lautman is, she really is a big Russia expert. Olga and I do a show. Matthew Dowd, by the way, for people in the chat, is here. He just got here this morning.
Yeah.
But Olga Lautman and I'm literally hanging out watching. Again, I hate watching cable news. My husband's a cable news addict, so I'm hanging out with him. And he's watching CNN, and of course they're focused on something unrelated. This is pre-Kirk. And I'm looking, and I read a lot of European and also Russian media just to see what they're saying.
Of course.
And Olga and I almost text each other at the same time. We're like, holy shit, did they just go into Poland? Like, could this be?
Right.
And we started doing our research, and I said, get on it immediately. Get on.
Right.
We have to do a live. It was 9:30 at night. I said, we have to do a live right now. People need to know what's happening. Like, we need to tell people what's happening, because as I'm watching CNN and I'm watching MSNBC, and I don't watch Fox, but I assume they weren't talking about this.
Yes.
Nobody's saying a word about this. And I'm like,
Yeah.
What the fuck? That's your fucked up Friday. The cable news is totally abdicating.
Julie,
I don't know that they've really have really done much with it since, which is crazy, because as I said, they invoked Article 4. They have every right to invoke Article 5. And the only country in the history of NATO that's ever invoked Article 5 is the United States. After 9/11. And so do we really want for that? I mean, they have the right to do it.
Yeah. Yeah, Julie, I had an insane split screen, right? Like I was watching you and Olga on my phone and standing in front of my TV watching MSNBC and waiting for them to say something, and it didn't happen. I just turned off the TV and was watching you and Olga because that was the breaking news.
Yeah. And I mean, that's the part that I think is kind of hard, because I think all of us have real jobs outside of this.
Mm-hmm.
And it's become more and more sort of imperative that I kind of put my real job to the side and go into penury and poverty to talk about things that are about things that are important.
Actually saving the nation, right?
Because
like actually saving American democracy.
And I keep saying, I don't want to be that person 40 years from now where little kids or 20-year-olds look at me and say, where were you? And I think that's why we do what we do. And I think that's why, and anybody with a phone can do what we do. Like, you just have to have the will to do it. And I 100%. Think that's important. And as much as going to protest is important, I think it is. Bringing real information to people, I think, is also really important. And any one of us can do that. If you see somebody from ICE busting somebody on the street, just take out your phone and go live.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
we are so happy that you were here with us today. We hope you'll come back in the future.
Anytime.
We have one big question that we like to ask everyone who comes on the show. And it's perfect for you because you're Gen X like us.
Okay.
Dana, do you want to do the honors and ask Julie our big question?
16 Candles better than Breakfast Club. Asked and answered. What else?
That's close. That's so close.
You are close. What is the most Gen X song of all time?
Oh.
What is our defining song?
Da, 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 da. Thompson Twins, If You Were Here.
Nice. Okay.
That's a really good one.
Breakfast Club,
Thank
right?
you.
No, that's in 16 Candles.
It's 16 Candles. It's so
That's the Jake Ryan song.
It's the Jake Ryan song. And of course, all of us have been married to Jake Ryan in our minds. So we know.
That's right.
I mean,
all of us. All three of us.
But by the way, you know where Jake Ryan is today? Jake Ryan is living in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania, and he's a carpenter.
I knew that, actually.
Wow.
That's wild. That just makes him sexier.
Yeah, honestly, that just makes it hotter.
And it wasn't so long ago that I was in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania, and I was like, should I go stalk Jake Ryan?
Michael Schofling,
God, next time, please do that.
Michael Schofling. And I was like, wait a second, I am married to a real person, not Jake Ryan. I can't do that.
And no matter how problematic we see he is now, he's still a dreamboat, right?
16 Candles has not aged well for anybody who says that. It is completely
totally
inappropriate, but come on.
Right.
By the way, I don't know if anybody on this chat, I know we have to go, I am obsessed with Spinal Tap, and I cannot wait to go see the sequel this weekend.
Oh my God, yes.
Oh my gosh.
Nice. Oh, we adore you, Julie. You're so great. Thank you so much for being here.
Anytime, and I want you guys to come on our podcast because I'm so happy that we were able to do this.
We would love it.
Please do. I will.
Thanks, guys.
Skip out on my boring day job to come on your podcast anytime.
Oh my gosh. All right. Thank you, Julie Roginsky. Thanks everybody for being here.
Love you.
Love you so much.
Bye. Thanks for having me. Bye.
Bye.